Good morning, everyone. Welcome to New Thought Center of Hawaii. This service for July 25th. It's going to be a really special morning, I think. Um, and thank you, people here on the lanai, for your patience. We are every week we're learning. um, could someone close the glass door of the lanai so the children can express themselves freely without impacting us? So, my name is Pasha. I'm in the facilitator chair this morning, and to my left is Carol Connor. She's our music minister, and to my right, on the other end of the table, my good friend Virginia Halliday, who is the star of the show. But she said she would feel more comfortable with an interview format. So, after all these 40 some years of being friends, I get to interview her. We're actually going to begin our service this morning with a reading from Science of Mind magazine. Lee, will you come and do the honors?
Good morning, everyone. I am reading The Small Flash of Insight. Every man's mind is an inlet to the divine. That's by Ernest Holmes. In moments of stillness, a flash of insight can reveal a path calling out to your spirit. This flash of insight is not linear in nature, but can help you see the entire process from beginning to end. It was one of these flashes of insight that opened the doorway for me to pursue my speaking career. It occurred at a moment in my life where things were not unfolding as I believed they should. In hindsight, I realized they unfolded exactly as they were meant to be. As I sat in my meditation sanctuary, I was immediately flooded with deep vision and revelation of a path calling out to me. I could see everything and felt the doors of opportunity open, ready for me to walk through. This was 5 years ago, and trusting that vision led me down a sacred path for using my voice. In what ways can you take some time today to sit in the stillness of your being, tuning into the creative force that breathes life into you? In the snap of a finger, the blink of an eye, a millisecond on the clock, we can be filled with an insight, idea, or vision that can transform us into our highest and best. Our mind is filled with divine. All we must do is be willing to tune in and act on the divinely inspired ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. So the next thing on our program outline is opening prayer. And Virginia asked me such an interesting question as we were preparing for this morning. She said, well, how do you pray at New Thought? And I couldn't actually answer. I think it exactly have a standard form, that it's kind of diverse, like many things at New Thought. But I believe most of us do have the concept, whether we do it or not, of affirmative prayer. And when I thought about it, I realized that when I first started coming to, well, at that time it was Religious Science Church, but when I first started coming, I did find it a little peculiar, because the people at this Religious Science Church, they phrased their prayers. They started with I, which seemed a little odd. But it's part of the philosophy that you knowing that what we need and desire is already there. In affirmative prayer, you express it in the present tense and use the pronoun I or we. And there is a special form of prayer that in the religious science circles is called treatment. It has 5 parts, and in the early days when I first met Virginia, she and Mamie were like leaders of the church. I was the Sunday school teacher, and in my Sunday school teacher role, I had a way of teaching the children what is treatment in this context. And we used our hands. So I thought, okay, I will just try and retrieve that with the way I taught the children. And there is a particular something that I think would be very beneficial for New Thought Center. And I thought, wow, if I invite everybody here to treat for that, we're probably going to manifest it really quickly. So in treatment, okay, there's the 5 parts corresponding to our 5 fingers. And the thumb is God. You can call it what you want. Divine, creator, source, great spirit, heavenly Father, Holy Mother, whatever. But for simplicity's sake, we'll call it God. Okay, the index finger represents your consciousness. And the first step is the recognition of God. God is. The second step is I am one with God. Unification, so you touch your index finger to your thumb. Now it's like plugging into the power source. The middle finger is the purpose of the prayer. And I can't remember what the term is. Poma, is it the statement? Well, she's in Unity now, which they do affirmative prayer, but I don't think they call it treatment, do they? Okay. Okay, well, let's just say it's the statement of purpose. And the ring finger is thanksgiving, because knowing that you're plugged into the power source and you've stated the blessing, the healing, whatever it is you want to have happen, you can be confident it will happen, or it has happened, or it is happening. So you give thanks as though it were already here. Okay, so that's Thanksgiving. And the final step of treatment is release. And a religious science minister that I enjoyed, Dr. Tom Costa, he wrote this little book called Excuse Me While I Call God. And he said release is like hanging up at the end of the phone call. And that a lot of people have trouble with that step because they're still feeling like they have to organize everything. But if you truly are giving it over to God, then you can release. You can hang up. Let go. Over and out. Very nice. Not that you might not have to do something on the physical plane, but you get that inner direction if there is some tangible thing you have to do to help birth the thing that you're praying for. And what I would like to invite you folks to join in today is it's about our 2 lots in Hawaiian Ocean View Estates, way down south. They were donated to this religious science church, which evolved into New Thought Center in the 1970s. They were given to us free by a woman named Fern. But New Thought has continued, religious science and New Thought have continued to pay the taxes, the road fees. We paid a little bit extra to bring the electric lines close. So we've been stewards of these properties. But several years ago, the board decided, we want to release those properties and put our energy into where we are now and have someone else develop them and, have it be a blessing in someone else's life. but we would like to get back, what we've put into them. So we would like this, I guess what we're treating for is the connection with the right person to buy these properties for a fair price and be blessed by them. Okay, shall we do it? Okay, so God, unified with God, the perfect connection for selling these properties that will be a blessing to both parties. And thank you. And we release, and we let go. Yes. Thank you all for participating in that. And let's celebrate with a song.
Aloha and good morning. It's nice to see some familiar faces out there, although they're not as easy to recognize these days, but the eyes say it all. So I want to start the morning out with a song that was written by Sandy Denny. She was one of the original members of the Fairport Convention. And considering that this is the 50th anniversary this year of the New Thought Church in Hawaii, you can't help but contemplate on where has the time gone? And that's the title of this song. Across the morning sky, all the birds are leaving, but how can they know it's time for them to go? Before the winter fire will still be dreaming, I do not have the time. I do not have the time. Who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes? Sad, deserted shore, your fickle friends are leaving. Ah, but then you know it's time for them to go. But I will still be here. I have no thought of leaving. I do not count the time. I do not count the time. You can help me out on this. Who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes? And I am not alone, while my God is near me. I know it will be so until it's time to go. So come the storms of winter, then the birds in spring again. I do not fear the time. I do not fear the time. Who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes?
Thank you, Carol. So, for those of you that arrived a little bit later, I'll say good morning again. I'm Pasha. I'm facilitating Virginia Carol. One part of our service that we have not been doing recently because we have to be more spaced out than usual, and we're not supposed to, because of the COVID rules, we're not supposed to hand the same object, hand to hand around the lanai. Is so our handheld microphones, we haven't been doing that, but I'm kind of, although we aren't going to do this part of the service where every person introduces himself or herself and responds to a prompt, I'm just wondering if I can do what Marie Claire did one week of at least having people say their name, and then I can repeat it into the microphone so the live stream people can say it. And also, if you're a visitor, maybe where you're from. And if you're a really old timer, you can say maybe what year you originally connected with New Thought or the predecessor churches of New Thought. You want to try? Okay. Well, so I'll ask our guest speaker to go first. So you don't just say it through your mask and I'll repeat it. I'm testing my hearing. All right. Virginia Halliday, 1971. In the beginning was Virginia. Okay, next. Yeah, if you can remember. Okay, Patty Wall, about 15 years ago. And Maybe Bramlett, also in the beginning. That makes it 1971. Marie Claire. Well, let's see what year is it now? 21 minus 20, so around 2001. Cool. Okay, welcome, welcome, Doc Halliday. We're grateful to have you. Yeah. Welcome, Barry. So that would be about 2019. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Wow, that's like about 40 years, right? Yeah. Yeah, I remember we both did childcare together. So Pomaikai, let's say it, Pomaikai in the early 80s. And let's see.
Hunter, and I've come off and on over the years, maybe since the mid 80s, and there've been some fun community gatherings here. I remember like a Blast of the Past 60s party that was really fun. So yeah, got to resurrect those. So keep coming back.
Thank you. And of course, Carol's in the role of music minister this morning, so we appreciate that. Okay. That's Lisa, 2014. Okay, great, great. Well, so that's Jean Love, and she's had connections with both Unity and New Thought Center. Became a member of New Thought Center in 2006. Six, you said? Yeah. Okay. Okay. And in the back row there, this is going to be a real test of my hearing. Lee in New Thought since 2000, celebrating his 10th anniversary as a minister of CSL, right? Okay. All right. And welcome, Cynthia, coming. Did you say Landon? Layton. Okay, I'm sorry. Nathan. Ah, okay. My hearing is not as good as Marie Claire's. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. And did you come with Cynthia? Okay. All right. Oh, someone else here is from Alabama. Our guest speaker originally. Yeah. Now, who are these two attractive young women in the corner, I wonder? Okay, this is well, Kalani from now living in North Carolina remembers being a very young child at New Thought Center, or actually it was New Thought Church. No, it was Religious Science Church then. So it's my daughter, and next to her.
Hmm.
That would have, okay. So that's for the live stream people, that's why I have to repeat this. My daughter Laura McGregor, who now lives in Chicago, and she remembers that the minister, when our family first connected with the Religious Science Church, had children her age, and she enjoyed playing with them. I think Todd was in her first grade class, and that would have been John Val Glasser. Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness. And continuing on. Okay, welcome Zoltan. So Zoltan was saying that he first came in 2015, and he's now has a closer relationship with New Thought Center because he's renting the Maluhia room and he does rolfing. So anyone is wanting that kind of therapy, he's the guy. Okay, Pat, did you go yet? Okay, Pat became a member not very long before the pandemic hit. So, but we're happy to have him. And you did some of the online services too, right? Yeah. So interesting time to join. Okay. So have we got everybody?
Mamie.
Yeah, early. Okay, I think we did. It's yeah, we're sort of spaced out. It's easy, but we did it. Okay. Thank you for the inspiration, Marie Claire. It wasn't quite as challenging as what you did, but we at least kind of brought everybody's um, into the circle in a certain way. So thank you for that. And I wanted to say thank you for cooperating with our mask rules. If you're following the news, it's rather discouraging that both on the Big Island and in the state and in the country, the numbers of cases of COVID are going up. It's moving a little bit in the wrong direction, just as we were planning for how we could relax the restrictions. We have to kind of hold the line for the time being until this trend reverses again. But you will notice, especially the people watching the live stream, that the people up in the front, myself at the moment, we are taking our masks off when we're performing our function, when we're speaking, or Carol when she's singing. But there is extra space. We are not just 6 feet from the congregation. We're at least 12, maybe more. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think it would be lovely to have another song at this point.
Thanks, Pasha. I got to do a little traveling this summer. I finally got to meet my new grandbaby, who's 8 months, in Northern California. And I was sitting in the airport, and of course, all of us, wherever we go, everybody's buried in their cell phones, their iPhones, and we've all got those contacts programmed into our phones. And I just was kind of sitting there thinking, how many of us can speed dial God? And my mother was originally from the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina. She lived in Catawba County, and that area code around there, I believe, is that 919? What's that area code up there? So, but it got me thinking that no matter where you are, what area code you live in, the main thing is that you are dialed in, And it doesn't matter, as the new thought, philosophy goes, if your spiritual practice approaches God from the portal of Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism, or if you are Muslim, the main thing is that you know how to hook up. And so this is a song that I remember my mom singing when I was a little girl, and it's a Southern bluegrass gospel hymnal. It's called Jesus on the Main Line. So whatever the God of your understanding is, you just, put the feeling behind it, however, which way it works for you. But the main thing is that you know how to have a conversation with God. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want. Now, I really like this part. The line ain't never busy. Tell him what you want. The line ain't never busy. No, tell him what you want. The line ain't never busy. Tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want. Now, who hasn't been feeling a little socially isolated? If you're feeling lonely, tell him what you want. If you're feeling lonely, tell him what you want. If you're feeling lonely, tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want. Got a physical ailment? If you're needing healing, tell him what you want. Oh, if you're needing healing, tell him what you want. If you're needing healing, tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. If you're needing comfort, tell him what you want. Who needs comfort? If you're needing comfort, tell him what you want. If you're needing comfort, tell him what you want. If you're feeling grateful, you can tell him that too, especially if you're feeling grateful, tell him that too. If you're feeling grateful, tell him that too. Just call him up and tell him what you want. If you need his blessing, tell him what you want. If you need his blessing, tell him what you want. If you need his blessing, tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want. One more time. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Don't be shy. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line, tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want. Just call him up and tell him what you want.
Thank you. in case anyone's curious about what's all this about, it's like the sign language for applause, but the new thought evolution is this is standing ovation. Tech people, can you make sure that the live stream is working okay? I see these colors and I hope that they don't mean anything has stopped. It's good. Okay, never mind. Poma's covered. Got it covered. Okay, thank you. So the next part of the service is the opportunity for people to share their miracles and ordinaries of their recent life. These are the special happenings, insights. We sometimes call them miracles because they are sort of unexpected and delightful, and they remind us of truth. They change us, but they're also ordinary because they happen in the midst of our daily lives, and the lessons are right there to serve us now. So if you have something of that nature, we invite you to come up and keep your mask on, but speak into the microphone because the mask muffles, but the microphone amplifies.
Aloha, everyone. Ooh, it's nice to see so many beautiful faces here today. Yay. Um, so I just wanted to remind everybody, and especially new people that don't know, we do have a library here. It's a lending library. It's a self-serve, you're responsible for it library. So there's a sign out sheet. You just put your name and what you took and the date you took it, and hopefully nobody wants the same book, but if they do, they'll know where to go to find it. And so I just wanted to remind you that we have that, and we have amazing resources. There's CDs, there's all kinds of music, there's recordings, there's all kinds of amazing books and teachings there. And then as another offering, I was gifted about a year ago with some teachings from Joel Goldsmith. And so if any of you are big fans, I would like to share that with you. It's a 1-year course in texts and tapes and CDs. So if anybody's really interested in digging deep into that, it's transformational. Everybody that's done it I've seen huge changes. So you're invited to contact me and I will gift that to you. So it could be your birthday today. Mahalo.
Good morning. I'd like to share something that's really working for me lately. And a few years back, I remember seeing a card with a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh that said, "Make today the happiest day of your life." I didn't quite understand it at the time or how I could make that happen, but it stayed with me that by changing the mental attitude or just being open to how this can be the happiest day, it can make a difference. So in the last month or so, I guess, I've been working with the power of declaration, where the first thing I do every morning is say something along the lines of, today is the best day of my life. And then at the end of the day, I just sort of say, thank you for all the wonderful things that happened today. And increasingly, it is becoming a practice day after day where it really is the best day of my life. And so this morning I declared today is the greatest day of my life. And it really is powerful to put that into action and watch how that manifests. It keeps me from being hung up on the little things like when someone cuts you off in traffic or the petty stuff that we can get wrapped up in. It just, wait, no, this is not happening. Today is the greatest day of my life. And I'm just going to maximize the power of this day. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And I'm sure there are more miracles in people's hearts, but I think we're going to keep moving because I want to be sure we have enough time for our interview. So now I get to introduce Virginia. Could you raise your hand if you read the article in the New Thought newsletter already? Okay, most of you didn't. A lot of you didn't. So I was just trying to decide if I would do the long form or the short form. But Virginia liked it, so I'll do the whole thing. Okay. I knew she would be too humble to talk about a lot of these things, so it's better someone else does it for you. Okay. So the seed was planted on September 22nd, 1971. On that day, the state of Hawaii granted a charter of incorporation to the Religious Science Church of Hawaii, which evolved into the present-day New Thought Center of Hawaii. To give a little context, this happened 2 years after Neil Armstrong became the first human being to set foot on the moon, and 12 years after Hawaii became the 50th state of the USA. The population of the Big Island was just under 64,000. In 1971, one had to drive to Hilo to see a traffic signal. Kainaliu was the commercial center of Kona, while Kailua was mainly a fishing village. On Oahu, a little boy named Barak had just celebrated his 10th birthday. So this week's speaker, Virginia Halliday, was there when it happened. She and her friend Mamie Bramlett played a pivotal role in a sequence of events and apparent coincidences that preceded the signing of that document, the Charter of Incorporation. Born in Arkansas, Virginia moved first to California and then in 1968 to Kona, Hawaii. Her career as an educator spanned 45 years, beginning on the mainland in Dermot, Arkansas, and Pasadena, California, and continuing for several decades in Kona. She was a classroom teacher in Honokahau and Kealakehe elementary schools. After earning a master's degree in 1982, she became a school counselor and served in that capacity first at Kona Waina High School and then at Kealakehe High. Virginia served for many years on the Board of Trustees of New Thought Church and its predecessor, the Religious Science Church of Hawaii. And also, I believe for a while after we changed our name to New Thought Center, she was still on the board. A founding member of NTCH, she is also a member of Unity of Kona, where she participates in the chaplaincy program. Along with Mamie and Frank Bramlett, Virginia was instrumental in establishing Kona's annual community celebration honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So some of you may have crossed paths with them in that context. She also does line dancing, so you may have met up with her there as well. You never know. So welcome, Virginia. Now we get to do the interview. So you said you prefer to be standing? Okay, so go ahead and assume your comfortable position, and I'll get the questions ready. So the title of today's talk was what happened 50 years ago. So we're going to start with that. That's your question number one, is what actually did happen 50 years ago that resulted in us being here this morning?
Good morning. And good morning to the people that are online. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll bend it down to a little.
Yeah. Maybe up just a tad, up just a tad, because otherwise I'll be looking. Mhm. Thank you, Umai. Thank you. Again, can everyone hear me? Yes. Thank you, Pasha, for that nice long introduction. I didn't realize I had done all of that. Surely didn't. Okay, I'm to talk about what happened 50 years ago. As I look around this room, some of you weren't born 50 years ago. So I will be sharing that with you. I also looked around and saw some students of mine. That wasn't 50 years ago because they are not old enough for that. Surely wasn't. What happened 50 years ago? A lot of things happened 50 years ago. But I think the one thing that Pasha is speaking of was new thought becoming into being 50 years ago. And it came in through religious science or science of mind. Sometimes it was referred to as. Sorry, I'm getting my notes adjusted again here. As I stated, when New Thought came into existence, it was religious science. And so I'm going to tell you how that transition occurred. I moved to Kailua Kona in 1968 from, as she stated, from Pasadena, California. Kailua Kona was definitely a small village. She's given you some of the biographics of it. There was one stop sign, and I mean one stop sign, not one stop light. The closest light, traffic light, was in Hilo, as she said. And I'm sure you've heard that before. I had been a member of the Religious Science Church in Hollywood. Dr. William Hornaday was my minister. Some of you may know of Dr. Hornaday. Mm-hmm. Another person came to Hawaii shortly after I arrived, and that was Mamie Bramlett. We were friends, and we both attended the United Church of Religious Science in Hollywood. When we moved here, we really missed our church. And you know how you talk about things, or as was stated earlier, you pray, you affirm, you treat, and eventually those things come to pass. And we were treating for either Unity Church or Religious Science or New Thought. Well, a coincidence happened. Mamie Bramlett, when she moved here, she got a job at a local bank. And one day, a man named Byron Peterson came in to open an account. In the process of that account being opened, he mentioned that his wife was coming. And guess what she did? She was a religious science minister. And of course, Mamie almost forgot that she was taking in an account. She got so happy to hear that, but she proceeded on and made some more inquiries. And he told her that as soon as she got here and they got things going, he would get in touch with her. And of course, they did later through the newspaper and in touch with Mamie. Well, as soon as he left, Mamie got on the phone, and guess who she called? Me. And we were so happy, we just jumped for joy because a religious science church, which we had attended, was coming. I'm through with that one.
And you, I take it you were one of the founders of this original church, right, Virginia?
Yes.
Can you remember the names of some of the other founders?
I looked that up because I knew you were going to ask me that after 50 years. Yes. Some of the people were Pauline Peterson, who was the minister. Oh, by the way, as she stated earlier, Byron Annie Naba, some of you know her, and Annie Naba, and Byron Peterson. They had signed the contract for the church. Other members were Laurie Nelson. I don't know any of you know her. She was married to a fisherman, and a fisherman's here, Rope Nelson. Margaret Wakefield, Elizabeth Von Beck. You may know her by, she owned an onion house that was designed by one of the students of Frank Lloyd Robinson.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I was about to forget that name. Elizabeth Von Beck, Mamie and Frank Ramlett, Lee Lillard. Made a huge contribution to the church earlier, and Virginia Payton at that time. Okay.
Okay.
Our next
So
question.
now as far as we know, the Mamie, Virginia, and Annie Nava are the ones who are still here in Kona of those early people who planted the seed. So yeah, we just owe such a great debt of gratitude to you. So if you can remember, Virginia, like what were the goals and ideals of the founding members at the beginning?
Well, to start and grow a religious science church. That was the main focus, the main purpose. Yes.
Mm. Well, they did it. Did you serve as an officer?
Yes, I was the original secretary. I served in 1971 under Pauline Peterson. And of course, Pauline Peterson did not stay a long time. They left and went to Honolulu in the early 73, during early 73.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you were continuing on the board. Did you serve
Yes,
in other positions as
all
well?
of the people who were on the board continued on the board and decided we needed to seek out another minister. And of course, since I was the secretary, I remember writing many, many letters to RESI. Richelieu was the head of RESI at that time, asking them to help us get a minister.
Okay. And during the time that you were a leader of the church, the Church of Religious Science and the subsequent New Thought Church, what gave you the most satisfaction?
Well, accomplishing a minister. And of course, the first minister that we were able to receive was John Glasser, who had the two small children that Laura spoke about. And of course, John was an excellent speaker. He had been a minister of a New Thought, of a religious science church in Los Angeles. And of course, he was well spoken, well versed, and did a lot for us. He led us into the purchasing of another member's house, Lee Lillard. And she sold us this house at a reduced rate. And that was our first owning of property. And of course, that property was used as a parsonage. The Glassers lived in that house while they were there. And of course, that's saved us on paying rent for them because we had purchased that property.
And that was on Ali'i Drive,
That
right?
house was on Ali'i Drive, and it was a very expensive property. Even with Lee Lillard, Lea is how Lee was spelled. Even with her reducing it, we still needed funds, and Elizabeth Von Beck made a huge contribution, which really us to buy the house. Okay.
And she was related to the McCormick Spice family, right?
Yes, she
Yeah.
was an heir there,
Yeah.
and she believed in sharing and tithing her money, and she did. So that's what put us on our way.
Wow. So that you remember that with satisfaction, that you succeeded in finding a very good minister and getting the church on a firm financial foundation. But what was your greatest challenge that you
Well,
remember from those early years?
the greatest challenge was membership, because as you know, we live in a transient area, and it's difficult for people to sometimes come from the mainland, and with the wages they get, um, to remain here or to be able to contribute. So that was one of the challenges. Another challenge was finding a location to have church. That was a great challenge. We moved quite a bit. We're sort of like nomads. We tried to find the most economical place that we could. Uh, I guess those were the biggest challenges, besides keeping a minister. However, John did stay with us from 1973 is when he came to 1977. So he stayed with
Okay.
us longer than our founders, the Petersons. Sure did.
Okay. And did you have any sort of funny or surprising experiences?
Yes, we had many of those because we had some fun experiences. We had potlucks as we do today, and I'm sure as you do also now still. One of the most surprising thing was when our founder, Pauline Peterson, when she left us, we were really in a quandary, but we recovered from that. And of course, even with John Glasser, but he did leave us rather on a good setting foot. He surely did. Them leaving was surprising, and what was funny, we had to take up the slack of speaking. So therefore, we had different sermons, talks, speeches every Sunday. One gentleman spoke about football. Surely did.
Now, would that have been Frank?
Oh, I'm not giving any names. I'm not giving any names, but we sat and we listened and we enjoyed it. Surely did. Let's see here.
Well,
One person spoke about, is your mind weighted? And it turned out to be, we're not ministers. And so we're pertaining to what we lacked and what we did. Yes.
it's kind of interesting. New Thought, the way it is now, one of the ways we try to explain it to new people is, well, we're a church without a minister, or we minister to one another. We haven't actually hired a minister, I think, since 84 or 85. And yet you've mentioned that in the early years, the ministers were actually very important. Besides the two that you've mentioned by name, were there other ministers that served as spiritual leaders of the church?
Certainly. Reverend David Bear and his wife came. And here again, they stayed in the parsonage. That was, we thought, would be inviting for them to stay because they didn't have high rent. But they didn't stay long either. And the next person who came was Betty White. And of course, she was a guest speaker. And after she spoke, we learned, I think, that she was planning to stay here. So the board got together and thought, but she was a New Thought minister. And being a New Thought minister, it was some problem with RSI for staying religious science. And so that's when we decided, well, religious science is not getting us a minister. So Betty White wants to minister to us. So we'll take her if she takes us. And so
So
that
that's
was,
how we became New
that's
Thought.
how you became New Thought. Betty White
Ah.
was a New Thought minister. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. I think I remember her.
You're,
So she,
yes,
she,
you were in the church when Betty
she's,
White
I
was
think
there.
she's the one that told us when she was getting ready to leave that she thought we could function okay without a minister, but she also trained people to do some of the ministerial functions. So it wasn't quite as um, humorous or surprising as,
raw.
as the previous departures. Yeah.
Right.
And just in your own life, um, what principles and practices from your time of active participation in the religious science and New Thought churches are still important to you now?
And I'm in unity, and as you said, they are important. Um, Reading the daily word or spiritual reading, meditating, um, tithing. I don't tithe all to unity, but I do tithe to other sources. So it makes a total of my income being tithed. And meditation, did I say that?
Yeah.
Mhm. Treating,
Mhm.
yes. That's about what I can think of now, Pasha.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to, time permitting, and I think it does permit, uh, give a chance for some of the other people on the lanai here to pose questions. And I think we can do it like we did the names, that if you will try anyway,
Okay.
that you sit in your chair, say
Yeah.
your question, and then I repeat it, and then Virginia has a little bit of time. She gets to hear it twice, so then, and the live stream people will know what question she's responding to.
Well, if I hear it, Pasha, I'll just repeat
Well,
it back.
the reason,
That
well,
will, that will
I'm
save time.
you could, but if you let me do it, it gives you more time to think.
Oh, okay.
Because
Thank
we
you.
don't know what they're going to
And
ask.
I need that.
All right, so the floor is open.
I was going to ask if anyone had a question.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I see a hand in the back there.
hopefully I will be able to answer it. If I can, I'll refer to Pasha. Yes, Laura.
Okay, so this is Laura's asking if Virginia was able to apply some of the lessons and teachings of New Thought and religious science in her professional life as a teacher and counselor.
Okay. Considering my professional life was in public school, and of course, we are not to combine religion with public school. However, I did teach guidance, as that was a part of the DOE curriculum. And we did do, and especially with the small children, sitting, relaxing, and just being quiet for a while. You'll be able to think better on your lessons. And that's how I incorporated it. And I had a little dolphin named Do So. I run into students now that ask me, do I still have Do So? And I tell them yes. Uh, and when kids are small and they first come in off of recess, they're still very high. You have to do something to get them quieted down. So I use it in that way, but it certainly wasn't meditation or treating or asking for a blessing. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
Okay, Carol over here. And then we'll come to Zoltan after.
I came here from Oahu, where I was born and raised here, and I remember being here in the 70s. And you mentioned initially that trying to grow your membership, what that was like, and Hawaii being very traditional in its Christian practices. So I'm just wondering what kind of outreach you did and how the Christian community received you, because the Unity Church and the New Thought Church were originally kind of considered to be sort of like new agey, so I'm just wondering how you reached out to the community and how the community eventually really embraced this congregation.
Mhm.
So I don't have to repeat Carol's because she has her own microphone.
Yes. And that's where John Glasser was very instrumental in teaching or letting it be known what religious science was about. He reached out in many ways, in ways of having workshops. And we did have attendance. Many times we had good attendance at the workshops. So the others, as I said, they really weren't here that long. John Glasser was the one that I would say responded to that.
Thank you. I have a brochure he prepared. They at one time there was the main service at Keaho, and then a second service at the King Kamehameha Hotel, and I think I probably was given this brochure the first time I went, and it said, "Welcome to a church of all nations," and it had a lot of questions and answers, such as, what is our belief about Jesus? What do we believe about the Bible? What do we believe about eternal damnation, etc.? So if somebody was somewhat open-minded but kind of needed those questions answered, I think he expressed it very well. So thank you for bringing that to mind, and thank you for your good question,
We
Carol.
had one hand over your
Yes,
posture
yes. So I'm
before.
going to listen carefully and repeat it for the live streamers.
How was it different, or from your experience on the mainland? Hawaii has this, I guess, image is like more accepting place or more tolerant place, and I'm curious about that. And it's a question you don't answer. I'll say that too.
Well, no.
Okay, so
You
Zoltan
can
is
repeat that.
asking a question about racial discrimination in Hawaii, and if Virginia, how her experience of that here as compared to on the mainland.
Okay, well, to be honest, and I don't know what it was about me, I really didn't experience racial segregation when I came. But I'm not saying it didn't exist. Some students may have gotten it from other students. But whenever I heard of that, it was squashed. I brought them in and I said, this is inappropriate. You don't say that. You don't say those words. And our principal also spoke on that when he spoke in general assemblies. That was a no-no. So that's how I was discouraged. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Bramlett, I saw your
I'm
hand.
looking if I saw another hand. Did you, Virginia? Oh, maybe, of course. Oh, so could you stand next to Virginia for a little while? Because otherwise the people on the live stream won't hear anything. Well, but it won't, it just won't pick up for the people watching by computer,
Huh.
just for a little while.
Okay. The reason I was saying that, another reason that it kind of changed is John changed the name to Kona Community Church and took the religious
Oh.
signs out of it.
Ah,
Thank you, Mamie, for coming up saying that. Cuckoo.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That came out, and it was called Community Church. Mhm. Yes. Is that all the questions? Okay. Thank you very-
okay,
thank you very much.
Gone. Okay, well, thank you. A standing ovation. So this, as we are approaching the 50th anniversary, this idea came up at at our brainstorming session to invite the founders and leaders of that have served the church over the 50 years to speak to us. And Virginia was the first one who said yes. It's just so fitting because she is not just a past president, but she and Mamie were there at the beginning. So thank you so much for helping us get this rolling. We do intend to have a good party, Carol, but we thought also it's such a big occasion. We should also take the opportunity to kind of learn more about our roots, our history. Okay. So one thing that was different. Excuse me. Oh, say one more postscript.
I'd just like to say, we kind of lost track of Byron and Pauline, but I put my daughter on a search for them, and she discovered that their two daughters, Pauline and Byron, have passed away, but their two daughters are still alive. And I talked with them, and they said they were here when their parents were starting the church. But unfortunately, I didn't meet them. Did you meet them, Mamie? No, I didn't meet them. But they are deceased, but their two daughters are around. And I let them know that I was going to speak about them today. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And Pauline, didn't you say it was only 5 years ago that Pauline passed away?
She was 95 years old.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, we used to have a different closing song. It was, well, when I first joined, I guess it was "Let There Be Peace on Earth," and then it got revised several times. So at the end, not now, that we aren't quite there yet, but at the end of the service, we're going to sing our last revision of the traditional closing song of New Thought Church, which is "Yes, there is peace on earth." We brought it into the present tense, but since it's not the original words. When it gets to that time, we'll pass these out. Maybe I'll ask my daughters to help. Okay, but before that, we have our offertory music, and the way we do our offering to not have to pass the bowl is any time during the offertory music, you can come up and put your contribution in the beautiful koa bowl and just notice so that people aren't coming up at the same time. So we're ready for an offertory, Carol.
We appreciate your gifts and your offerings today. And there's a bunch of movers and shakers here amongst us. This is a shaker, a traditional shaker song that was written back in 1848. It's called "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." So sing along as you come up and make your offering. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find that place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we turn out right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find that place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, for by turning we turn out right. This is my own little tag, because, my mantra is to keep it simple in our relationships, our recipes, our wardrobe repairs. Zippers, forget it. I'm, always doing elastic drawstrings. So in life, take the path of least resistance, okay? Keep it simple in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. Keep on turning in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. I can't hear you. Keep it simple in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. Keep on turning in the real world. Keep on turning in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. Keep on turning in the real world. Keep it simple in the real world. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find that place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, all of you, for your contributions to New Thought Center. The live stream people, probably, if you want to make a contribution, the easiest way is to go to the New Thought website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com, and look for the PayPal button, the donate button rather, which will link you to our PayPal account. That song, Carol, that was a favorite of Judy Rothstein, who was our longtime music minister. She loved that song. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share the New Thought announcements as we prepare for our closing. So our normal service time is 10 a.m. And if you come early, you get in on the prelude music. You can attend in person. You can watch the live stream as it's happening on your computer or phone or tablet. And then it's recorded. So if you're really busy that Sunday, you haven't totally missed it. We have resumed our free child care, and we appreciate reservations, especially for the child care, to make sure that we have good communication between the families and the child care providers. For the next 2 Sundays, we have this coming up. First Sunday of August, that'll be August 1st, Drew Womack will be providing the program and music. And his title is The Eye of the Storm, Maintaining Serenity in Times of Chaos. And the following week, Woody Yehuda Plaut, leader of Konabeth Shalom, will be doing program and music, and his topic is Shabbat, or Sabbath. We have one weekly class, the gentle yoga on Mondays from 5 to 6:30. The teacher is Maria Mann. However, Maria got a grant and needs to simplify her life so she can write a book. And so actually tomorrow's class will be the final class for the time being anyway. So if you've been intending to come for Monday yoga and haven't done it yet, don't delay. I don't know if she'll continue teaching somewhere else, but at least as far as New Thought, regular weekly classes, she won't be doing that in the next few months at least. Okay, so our monthly happenings, the first Sunday of the month, we're having our pre-service healing meditation with crystal bowls. And the first Sunday of the month is next week. That's from 9 to 9:30, and it's by donation. The last Sunday of the month, which is today, we have our produce giveaway after service. The children helped set it up, and don't leave empty-handed. There's some bags there if you didn't happen to bring one. There's lychees, avocados, white sapotes, possibly other contributions that came in afterwards. Okay, and you're invited to consider being a volunteer for the 50th Jubilee Planning Group. We haven't actually had our first meeting yet. We have a lot of good ideas that have been generated, but to turn the ideas into actualities, we need some people that are willing to get together, whether it's in person or by Zoom, and figure out some of the details. We can also use Sunday service volunteers, facilitators, greeters, tech support, and a produce giveaway SAR for next month. Some people like titles. Okay. I want to thank Barry and Pomekai for the tech support today. Really appreciate it. Okay. If you're not already on our newsletter list, you can sign yourself up. If you go to the website, there's a place to sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's probably the best way to keep fully informed of what's happening at New Thought. We also have a bulletin board. You can look at it on your way out. And Facebook and Dolphin Podners are other ways that you can keep in the know. So Laura and Kalani, could you please come up and pass out these words to the peace on earth? So you can, although you can't remove your mask, you can sing into your mask. It's still fun. Carol's the only one that gets to take off her mask for singing. Okay. Oh, I guess I should keep one for me. Thanks. Carol has it. Actually, I remember Judy Rothstein was the music minister when we did one of the modifications of the words, and we were singing it all different ways, and she said, "You know, we really need to decide on one way." So, so this is it, and we can't circle up, but we can stand up. So.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Yes, there is peace on earth.